Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Michelle Tarryk. She's here to talk about an upcoming unique calendar. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself as in, your title and a little bit about this calendar.
Okay. So, Michelle Tarryk, I'm the Executive Director of Northeast Kingdom Learning Services. And this calendar really was kind of a fast and furious idea that came to light and just took off like crazy. On December 5th, I was having a breakfast meeting with a wonderful colleague of mine, Barbara Morrow, and we were pondering another type of opportunity that we'd love to see happen here in the kingdom. And at the end of our conversation, we were both remarking about how impressed we were with so many women in the kingdom who are in leadership roles, who are executive directors, who are business owners, and just how can you market that information? How can you share that out for younger generations, for folks to, see the energy and the connection that's happening here in the kingdom and the great work that's happening because of it. So we started off just thinking about, maybe it's a picture of all the, like a dozen powerful, strong, amazing women that are doing great work, and kind of like in a power pose kind of picture. But then it was like, so what do you do with that picture? Like, what would we do with it? And then the conversation progressed, and it was like, well, what if we did a calendar? Mm-hmm. And then it was like, well, if we did a calendar, what if we used it as a fundraiser to start a fund for the Northeast Kingdom to have leadership opportunities, specifically for young girls, but it also could be something that could be partnered to also do leadership opportunities for young boys. Because I think it's important that we are lifting everybody up at the same time and not solely focusing. But this calendar is focused on women. So I left the Brown Cow that morning with a napkin with a list of about a dozen women's name in the region.
Which is also woman-owned.
Which is also, Cow. Yes. And so I went back to my office. I sent out an email blast to those ladies, and I said, I'm looking for 12 strong, amazing women in the kingdom that would be interested in doing a fundraiser calendar. Within minutes, I had folks responding back like, absolutely, yes, as long as I don't have to wear a swimsuit and as long as it's not one of those calendars, And so it was like, okay, well, we've got energy behind this. Folks want to do it, and they're willing to do something quickly because it's going to be a 2019 calendar, and it's December, 18th today? Mm-hmm. I also picked up the phone and I reached out to a couple photographers. And so one photographer that I spoke to was Mary Claire Carroll, and she is the photographer who did the Vermont Works for Women Labor of Love exhibit several years ago. And she was absolutely excited about this opportunity and thrilled and was willing to jump in and do it, even though it was incredibly short notice. And so what happened then is folks that I had originally reached out to started coming back with some other names, like, have you thought about this person? Can we ask this person? And so now we have 23 women in the kingdom from Island Pond, St. Johnsbury, Sutton, Derby, Newport, Craftsbury, Greensboro. We have folks that are owners of for-profit businesses, executive directors of nonprofits, president of a bank. So it's this amazing group of women that are getting having their photographs taken, and they're all bringing to the calendar a statement, a quote, or advice to their younger self. That will be part of the calendar. And so we've been kicking around the title of the calendar, and we think we've landed on NEK Women Setting the Pace. And on the front cover, there's going to be a quote. And the quote is, "The connections between and among women are the most feared, the most problematic, and the most potentially transforming force on the planet." And that's a quote by Adrienne Rich. And one thing that we see when all of these women are coming in for their photo shoot is really connections, and the connections that and the relationships that they have found so remarkable in moving their work forward, whatever that is, be it work in their community that they're doing, work in a public sector, in a nonprofit sector. And so I'm over the moon with this, and I can't wait for this to actually be finalized. It's a quick, fast turnaround, but calendars will be available after January 15th. The January month will not have a photograph. It will just be kind of an overview so that we don't lose that opportunity for every person in the calendar to have their page. So it'll be a 13-month calendar. Some months will have 1 or 2 or 3 women photographed, and their advice.
My first question would be, where would you begin? Because I'm not sure if everybody would agree, but we have a long history of this area having strong women leaders. Like I even think back to my youth, she's now a woman who's passed. I'm not sure if you were living here yet when Louisa Essoff used to own Essoff's store on East Main Street, and she was a Lebanese bride who came here speaking very little English, and she married a much older fella. And when he passed away, that woman was she kept her store in action. She was a big part of East Main Street life, so it goes back to even then. And what I find as a writer of history, though, and a lover of people, a lot of times these strong women leaders didn't jump up, and I think women have a harder time promoting themselves than because I think of like Tina Bliss, who founded, I grew up with her, who founded like the Hoagie's chain, Vermont Pie and Pasta, now a place as, I grew up with her, but a lot of people wouldn't have thought of her mother as she ran the family business. Then she took, helped with so there was, I find that women often, even the leaders, lead from behind a lot of time. Exactly. So you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. And this calendar, actually, this could have been a 10-year calendar because there are so many women that could have been and should have been in this calendar. But you're limited to 12 months, right? Yeah. Which means that there's opportunity for future calendars, which I think is pretty cool to think about that.
But was that a hard thing to do, to try to pick who?
It was extremely hard. Initially it was like looking at, folks, the women that I work closely with that are executive directors of other organizations, that I know my, connectivity with them and my collaboration with them has allowed me and my organization to move forward some really great things. Things that I wouldn't have been able, or our organization wouldn't have been able to do by ourselves. And it really is that, we're stronger together, and we have so much more opportunity when we take, the talent of many and move energy together.
So who were the people, and can you give a little snapshot on who they are?
Sure. So we have Amanda Cochran, who is the executive director of Umbrella. We have Kathy Austin, the president of Community National Bank. Abby Long, who is the executive director of Kingdom Trails. Catherine Sims, the executive director of the NEK Collaborative. Jenna O'Farrell, who is the executive director of Northeast Kingdom Community Action. We also have Lynn Limoges, who is the executive director of the VNA. Connie Sandall, who is the executive director of Northeast Kingdom Youth Services. We have Susan Cherry, who is the executive director of St. Johnsbury Community Justice Center. Barbara Morrow, who is the Community Justice Center executive director up here, Orleans County Community Justice Center. We also have Jennifer Barrett, our state's attorney. So we're excited that that she wanted to take part in this as well. Eileen Aluzzi and Gwen Bailey Rowe, who are from the North Country Career Center, and we have Marina Cole, who is from the St. Johnsbury Academy Adult Education Tech Center. Again, all these are folks that I partner closely with. We also have Rosemary Lalim. Came in and did a wonderful setting. Julie Raboyne and Sunny Naughton also. And Kit and Emily, they're the co-owners of the Craftsbury General Store. Mm-hmm. So it's great to have them there. Kaylee Galloway Kane, also another executive director. We have Karen Ward, who is Edward Jones. She has an Edward Jones franchise here in town. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty impressive list of women, and in just the work. But it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Do you, naming those off, and I think of so many others. Do we have, some people might think that rural America, we might have fewer women leaders or women business people. But after naming off those, I'm thinking of all the others, too.
Right. And Jeannie Gervais, I failed to mention her from Island Pond. Right. Again, a woman, business owner, community, advocate.
Do you think we have more or less, or about the average and the national average, about women leaders here?
I think we have more.
Yeah, because I know one person you reached out to, we talked to, is, of course, Dina Gray, because, but something fell through there. Yeah. But there are so many, it's like Exie at the Thai restaurant.
Right.
And I commend you for undertaking this, because I wouldn't have known where to begin.
Sometimes you just have to start, you just start, and if it's something that sits it within you well, and you can feel the passion and you can just feel it's right, it's kind of a leap of faith that this is all going to come together. And I really think that this is going to be a catalyst for great things to happen here. My hope is that this calendar event, we'll be able to come up with an actual event in March, which is Women's Month, to be able to bring all the folks that were in the calendar together, but also do some type of celebration and maybe, start talking about the next calendar.
Right. There's somebody watching the show right now, and she's saying, but why isn't your name there?
My name?
Your mother. I know she's watching this show since I know her, and she's saying, but Michelle, you should be on that list.
I actually am. I was photographed with Barbara Morrow yesterday.
You didn't mention that.
I didn't mention me. No, I didn't. See, as women, we tend to, to not mention ourselves sometimes. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. And, I just, I'm so passionate about leadership. And I'm so passionate about collaboration and how there are so many resources in this region. There are so many treasures and opportunities. And sometimes I feel like we're not living up to our full potential.
I think that is true in general here, is, across all sexes, across all age groups. And I think sometimes it's because, to be realistic, this is a poor area, and I think sometimes you develop a can-fail attitude, and I think it becomes contagious sometimes. But I think optimism can be contagious as well. Like, I've been accused of going through life with rose-colored glasses on because, and sometimes it's probably unrealistic, but I still believe that, as I tell people, if I can get ahead, and some of my friends have been able to get ahead, anybody can get ahead because we're not the best and the brightest, as in ourselves.
I think you definitely have to stop telling that self story to yourself that you're not the brightest, because you are bright, you are so talented, and you bring that to everything you do.
Right.
And I think that's one of our things is sometimes we have this negative self talk, and and the kind of and when you think about it, would we want our young children, would we want our young daughters and our young sons to have that negative self talk? And so we need to start.
No, with me, it's humor. Because I use it as a bit of humor, because I do believe that even in our schools,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mean the teachers come right out and teach you're going to fail. But I still think there's a lot of stuff that goes on that it's like, my take on success is not necessarily having this cushy office, or being like the producer of this show, Todd Peranto, having his cushy digs here, 6-digit fella. But success is also what makes you happy too.
Right.
And paying the bills are nice too.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a balance. It's a balance. But back to your rose-colored glasses, I would rather have rose-colored glasses on to be able to look at the most dire situations than to not be able to try to find something good, in everything, some lesson learned. Failure is good, because failure allows us to discover what didn't work, what doesn't work, and so being able to be okay with that and say, it was just one more learning opportunity to get me to where I'm going. We need to do better work with our youth around helping them to see life through more rose-colored glasses.
The one thing I think society has done, and not only here too, is we've almost stigmatized people who work with their hands. As in, nobody wants, like we have a dire need now for carpenters, plumbers, electricians. The average age, I believe, of a plumber is now 56.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes our idea of success has steered away from the importance of working with your hands. So I think success, whether you're a woman or a man, it looks different for different people.
Right. Well, you need to help me bring Mike Rowe here.
Oh, Mike Rowe. Yeah, but we have a connection, right, to this area.
Do we?
Oh, sure. Lucien Delabriere is Lucien, who graduated from North Country. If you watch Mike Rowe,
Mm-hmm.
Giving Back,
Mm-hmm.
Lucien, the driver, is from Newport Center.
No way.
Oh, sure
I did
he
not
is.
know that. See, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, Lucien, my kids went to school with him. He's the Delabriere family here.
Okay, so you could reach out to him.
We have a strong connection to Mike Rowe.
Because what we need to do, and this is just my opinion, that my little, thoughts, we need to make blue-collar work sexy. And I think a catalyst to do that here would be bring Mike Rowe here. Bring him here to talk to our younger students. Bring him here to get kids excited about the trades and about possibilities. And then you can move that energy forward. You need to have a catalyst, though.
Right.
You need a catalyst to move things forward. And I feel like this calendar is a catalyst. And I can't wait to see what it brings.
So how are people going to be able to buy it?
Well, we're going to hopefully have them available at stores throughout the kingdom. Every single participant in the calendar will have access to calendars to sell. And we're probably going to be putting it available through NEKLS. As somebody could just contact our office to purchase the calendar as well.
Right. I was thrilled to see Jen Barrett on your list. Jen is, I'm not sure if she's if she is my wife's and one of our best friends, or if she's like she and her husband are like children to us because they're our kids' age, but we're kind of, I guess you could call, we're their quasi Northern Vermont parents slash friends.
Yeah.
So I think she has a tough job as state's attorney.
Yeah.
As she said, is Scott, you will never sit on one of my juries because no matter what, you always find something good about everybody. You won't convict anybody. But no, she does have
Yeah.
Would you want that job?
No, absolutely not. That's, and that's important to know, to know where your passion is and to know where your limitations are. Jen is passionate about the work she does. And I think that's, when you can bring that passion to your job, it's no longer a job. It's your life. It's a part of who you are. And I think she does it well.
Well, she must be good because typically when the Burlington Free Press does an article about the kingdom, it's typically something bad, because, a lot of times, I hate to say it, the news sometimes to come up to not the local news, but to come up to the kingdom, you've got to wait for us to do something either illegal or incredibly stupid. And they, Thanksgiving period, somewhere around there, they had a whole front page section just on her. Mm-hmm. It didn't involve a scandal. It involved her work and all the great work she's doing.
Yeah, and we need more of that.
Right.
We need more of that, absolutely.
I will say this about the history of women in this area, though, is it goes way back. Like even some of the early settlers, they were fortunate to have a woman, an Abenaki woman, Molly Ockett. They're the ones who, Molly Ockett was an Indian doctress who helped keep the settlers upright and standing during some pretty, some challenging times. But on the other hand, you go through old newspapers, sometimes it's so frustrating, is women are never given a lot of times women are not given a first name. It's Mr. And Mrs. Scott Wheeler. Mm-hmm. It's like you've seldom, so I have to go through more records to find out what that Mrs. first name was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but that's the way it was.
Right.
But it's great that there's an opportunity to kind of dig into it. I mean, for Northeast Kingdom Learning Services, our organization was started by a woman, Eva
right.
Warner.
Eva
Warner. I mean, I feel like her legacy, it's very warming to my heart to know that I'm carrying her work on. Right. And I'd like to think that that I'm carrying a bit of her spirit as to why, she did this work.
You do know, and I mean this quite seriously, and a lot of people who know me would say that I regularly say this, women are the stronger sex. I believe in, well-rounded way. The guys might go around with a swagger, but women, I believe, are the stronger sex. It's like even with my wife, Penny, is I might be the face of my business, and Penny's the brains of the outfit. But once again, I try to get her out. No, she wants to be, they are. And in reality, she's the leader of our family. She's the leader of the business. And I truly, and just think about this. If men had to start giving birth, what would happen to the world's population with our pain tolerance? It would be down. Women are the stronger sex, hands down.
I'm not going to disagree with you there, but I do also want to recognize that we can't be successful without strong men too.
So we have about 5 more minutes left. What more would you like to say about your calendar?
This is probably the most exciting thing I've done in a long time. And just, be on the lookout for the publicity around the calendar. I'm hoping that maybe in January we might be able to come back and have Mary Claire Carroll, the photographer, and a couple of the women who were in the calendar, talk a little bit about their experience and what it was like and their hopes and dreams for how this can move forward. And we might even have a little more information about what we might like to do in March to celebrate the calendar out even more so.
I think anything to help build a little more optimism to, and particularly our young people, because I understand young people wanting to move away, but all my kids did. But on the other hand, I still think people need to realize there is an option. You can stay here. It's it's a little trickier. You have to do things, but first of all is believing in yourself and believing that it can be done. So I think that's really one of the big things that you might be able to for both women and men.
Right. And this is something, like I said, this isn't just any KLS work. This is this whole group, this whole community of businesses and nonprofits and, throughout the entire Tri-County region, throughout the entire Northeast Kingdom, doing this work and moving this forward. And I expect great things. I expect, 5 years from now, conversations will be different.
And I'll go, a couple other women I really wished I could remember their names is, you think about it, is Newport's had some struggling times, between the EB5 scandal or debacle. There's been some issues with leadership within the city ranks, but these two women decided to make this music on the waterfront. And they said, hey, we've got to do something. And they pulled themselves, they pulled the group together. And you look at that summer music series that's going on now. And it's, they got past just the talking. Yeah. And they decided to do.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's what I value most about the women that I've been working with. All these women that are taking part in this calendar are busy, are crazy busy. And yet, you know what? Just do it. They found the time in their schedules to make this happen. And that's what I value about women. I think they're more apt to take risk and to just do it. And that's kind of exciting. And maybe that's different than it was 5 years ago,
No, I agree. And I think the one thing, a lot of us look at, the EB5 thing as a negative. Well, yeah, it was to a degree. But I actually think the debacle actually helped recenter us because we've always been people here that, that we were self-sufficient. But then for that period of time, we looked towards the sky for that big hunk of money to fall, and it never did. And then, as I said, once there, it got to be rocky within city government, I think it forced people to start doing that we can't rely on government, we can't rely on that money from dropping, and I think people have really started doing now.
Absolutely.
And I think the desire for that easy money, and I think for a while we just forgot that we can do.
Right. It was a humbling experience.
Oh yeah.
I think and here I am with my rose-colored glasses again, right? Is saying that absolutely it was actually a blessing in disguise in some ways, because you have a lot more. You're seeing a lot more community passion, and you're seeing a lot more coming together. And I think the Wednesdays on the Waterfront is a perfect example of, a community saying, starting with, just a couple people, saying, well, let's do something. Let's do something different.
Because then you take, as I said, Exie, the Thai restaurant, she could be any place, and she chose Main Street. But then you got Largo's, who've now had another restaurant, and so like with Main Street, the hole in the ground isn't beautiful. But I will tell you this from a person. I'm a media contact by people from all over the United States, and to the point, the world. They contact me not to talk to me, but they find people who they contact me to ask, okay, we're doing a story about this. Who should we talk to? And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of interest in this region. I'll be meeting in another couple weeks with a person who's going to one city in every state for a project that they're working on, and they've chosen Newport, not Burlington, not Montpelier, not Woodstock. They've chosen Newport because they wanted, they've read about it, and that's what they want to do. So we have a lot of media attention, and we need to take advantage of it.
Opportunities.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
So the calendar will be out when?
Hoping to have it ready for sale January 15th, thereabouts. So.
And and then you're going to be starting your 2020 calendar.
Well, people are already talking. There's already thoughts and ideas. So so stay tuned. But thank you so much for letting me come on today and talk about this calendar and kind of getting people excited.
And it sounds like you'll be back on in a few more weeks.
I hope so, yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for coming on, and thank you for all your good work.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.